Imagine spending tons on your daughter's education, and she still turns out to be a failure. My mother's voice was loud and clear for everyone to hear, to which my father added, "Nothing new there. She has always been a bit of a disappointment, unlike her brother." This was followed by light laughter from my brother, who was standing tall and confident in his fancy suit, wearing a big smile for the whole room to watch and swoon over. He had just completed his master's degree with a gold medal, and this party was in his honor, a party where I was publicly being shamed. That, too, by my own parents. I think at this point you can tell that I am definitely not the favorite child. Not even a little bit. I am and have always been a burden on them. Growing up, I've heard nasty comments about me all the time. As a kid, it used to be, "She's such a scrawny, skinny kid. Wish she'd put on some weight," which quickly turned into, "If only you'd lose some weight. Nothing fits you anymore." And if it wasn't about my appearance, it was about the way I spoke, walked, or did anything. "Don't laugh like a horse. Why are you so messy? Girls are not supposed to like sports. Stop acting like boys." And the last one that always got to me, "Art is a waste of time. Wish you had become a doctor, but I guess you weren't smart enough." They loved mocking me for choosing arts as my passion. Ever since I was a kid, all I've heard is how studying science is the only way to live and everything else makes you a loser. I had spent my entire life trying to fit in their shoes, making myself look smaller and smaller for their convenience. I even studied science till college just to keep them happy. It made me so miserable. I used to get anxiety attacks before exam days and couldn't sleep or eat due to the constant stress of living up to their expectations, but I forced myself to keep going. However, all of it was in vain. I failed the medical college entry test by a single mark. One single point turned everything upside down, and my parents became my worst enemies. They wanted me to repeat a year and try again, but at this point, I was not ready to go through another year of torture. So for the first time in my life, I said no. I told them I wanted to try something for myself, something that made me happy, and they straight up refused to let me do it. They told me if I wanted to study anything else, I needed to fund it on my own. After a lot of sleepless nights, I decided to accept the offer and started looking for part-time jobs. As I had no proper degree, all I could manage was working in cafes and bookstores, which barely paid anything, but I was not ready to give up. I took up morning and night shifts and worked continuously for a year straight to save up enough for my first year, after which I decided to continue doing night shifts to be able to keep up with my education. I took student loans as well and lived with the bare minimum facilities as I was living under my parents, but they had refused to acknowledge my existence. My plan was to earn enough to move out after my education was complete, so I kept moving forward with my plan and worked hard every day. I decided to enroll myself in an arts program while I was exploring my likes and dislikes, and to my surprise, I loved it, and I was really good at it as well. My parents disapproved as always. They told me I will be on the streets as artists do not earn much. They told me I am making a huge mistake, that I should be studying something of value, but I had already made my decision and I was not turning back. Things started falling into place for me. I had applied for the dorms and I got in, which meant I could finally start my life on my own terms. I was supposed to move out in a week, but my brother decided to bless us with his achievements once again, and as the people-pleasing daughter and sister that I was, I decided to stay for this week of festivities in his honor. Little did I know that I would be this humiliated in my own house, and that too in front of everyone. I was used to being mocked and taunted by them, but I did not expect them to be this ruthless, to not even care about my feelings in a group of people. I stayed quiet the entire evening, not like anyone cared, and as soon as the party was over, I shut myself in my room and cried like a baby. I had learned to keep my calm all these years, but today, I felt the rush of emotions all over again. Words like disappointment, failure, good for nothing kept popping in my head, and I wanted to run away for good, but this was it. Enough was enough. I had to do something before I left, something for them to remember me by. I had a week to plot my revenge story. I will give them exactly what they need, a taste of their own medicine, something that reminds them that I am their daughter after all. I had chosen the perfect moment to put it all together. It was my brother's farewell dinner in 2 days, and I had decided to execute my sweet plan there for all our friends and family to watch. It was finally coronation day for me, and I couldn't be happier. I had carefully laid the foundation of the humiliation, and now it was time to play it all out smoothly. Today was a grand event. The guest list included my father's friends, investors, CEOs of influential companies, and many other high-profile and esteemed people. A phenomenal stage for the night to unfold. The party went on smoothly, with guests trying out all the fancy dishes that were prepared by expensive chefs, and the women appreciating my mother's eye for decor. Towards the end was my father's big speech to show his gratitude towards his son for always making him proud. That was my cue to act. I get up and walk towards the stage, all eyes suddenly on me. As my father ends his speech, I gesture for him to hand over the mic, and he gives me a questioning look. Maybe he thinks I am there to appreciate my brother as well, so he gives me the mic without any protest. In my head, I can imagine him regretting this moment for the rest of his life. I use humor and sarcasm as my weapon, starting with praising my brother for everything he has achieved with their parents' approval, support, and love. Then I turn to my father, who had just given a lecture about hard work and success. "It's funny when you talk about success, Father, considering you can barely keep up with your own finances." "What do you mean?" I see my father tensing up, and for some reason, it gives me reason to go on, "Oh, you want me to expand on it?" I mean, the business failures you've gone through, the debt you've taken, the lies you've built your business on to save yourself from the embarrassment of people finding out that you are nothing but a disappointment yourself. I stop to turn my focus towards my father's best friend. "Let's talk about the time my father begged you for money, making up excuses on how he needs it for an investment that will be good for the both of you." Wrong. He was almost losing the house we take so much pride in. This house and everything else built up on the money that my father borrowed from friends and family and never returned. I can see the whole room looking at each other in disbelief and confusion now. My parents are in complete shock, father trying hard to maintain his composure. "I think it's time you step down, Selena," my father adds sternly. "You sit here acting like the most respectable and honest man, but you're keeping everyone in the dark and scamming everyone who loves you dearly, and yet I am the failure in your eyes, just because I chose to do what I love and not what will bring me more money?" I shift my gaze towards my mother now. "And you, Mother, sitting there in your expensive clothes and your perfect face, you really do love to keep up appearances, don't you? Always telling me to look proper, to have better taste, to not act cheap. It's about time you drop the act." My mother's face has turned pale at this point. "How many fake designer bags will you collect till you understand that you cannot hide your heart through expensive taste? Pretending to like all these women that surround you only as long as they go by your rules, and as soon as someone disagrees, turning your back and saying the meanest things about them is not genuine. This is not friendship. It is just a facade." My father stands up in anger. "How dare you speak to your parents like that? This is enough." "Yes, Father, it is enough. I've had enough of you guys making me feel like a loser all the time when you yourself sweep your dirty actions under the rug every day. Is this conversation making you feel uncomfortable, embarrassed, awkward? Well, now you can imagine what it is like for me. Both of you have made me feel so worthless, I can barely look at myself in the mirror. What did I ever do to you? Why could I never be enough?" The whole room falls silent. I can hear my own heartbeat in my ears. Here's the thing, Mom and Dad, I am not a failure. From here on, I decide my worth. I will live my life according to how I want it to be. I will not try to fit into your levels of perfection only to be liked by you. I take a long, deep breath. I am flawed, but at least I am true to who I am and what I believe in. This was my last straw, so congratulations on pushing me to the edge of a cliff. I am done with the either of you. With that said, I get off stage and walk out of the room, head held high, shoulders broad, feeling a sense of relief rush through my body. I could finally breathe. My stuff was already packed. I had ordered an Uber ride for shifting, and everything was in motion. I looked at my parents' mansion one last time, heart a bit heavy at the thought of leaving it all behind, but remembering the better purpose behind it all, and I got into my Uber and drove away into the night, ready to take whatever life throws at me with full courage and determination. Nothing could break me anymore. I look through my bag to search for my apartment keys. As I turn the lock and step into my brand new and posh apartment, I stumble into a stack of postcards. Picking them up, I sit on my sofa and go through each one of them only to come across an invitation to my first cousin's wedding. It has been a year and a half since it all happened, and I have ignored all attempts of my parents to reach out to me. Attending this wedding might not be a good idea, but I hold my cousin very dear, so I might have to go. During this time away, I have grown a lot as a person, both emotionally and financially. I now own a studio where I exhibit my art pieces, which are famous throughout the world, thanks to a Parisian woman putting them up on her Instagram and making them go viral all over the internet. Turns out, my father was wrong. Artists can earn a lot if they do it right. I also own a bake shop which is right next to my studio, and I recently bought this apartment as well, which is in a very elite and high-class area. So, all in all, I think I'm doing pretty great. The day of the event. As I enter the hall full of people, I'm suddenly reminded of the last time I was in a gathering like this. I walk in confidently, looking pretty decent in my designer dress that came all the way from Rome just on time for this occasion. I can see my extended family members eyeing me, probably thinking about how much time it has been since I was amongst them. Suddenly, my eyes land on my parents, and we hold eye contact for a few seconds before they begin walking towards me. Clearing his throat, my father goes, "It has been quite some time." "A long time, actually," to which my mother adds, "It's nice to see you after so long." "Yes, it has." "You look like you're doing well." "I am." I look into my father's eyes, and I see just how tired and worn out he looks. Then I turn towards my mother, and her hair isn't dyed, and she isn't wearing her usual full face of makeup. They both look old and sad. For the first time in my life, I see my parents, really see them, and I feel bad for them. I hesitate, then as a way of forgiveness, I hold out my hand to my mother. "It is nice to see you too." She clutches my hand, and tears fall out of her eyes. Before she goes full-on sobbing, I take her into my arms and soothe her down. "It's okay, Ma." "It's all okay." My father puts his arms around the both of us, and I can feel his body quivering next to mine. "We were wrong, Selena. I'm sorry. We should have been better parents." "It's all in the past, Dad. Let's just move on." After this small, happy family moment, we all sit down and I tell them everything about my life, and they look genuinely excited and proud. I take in the moment to think to myself, this is it. This is all I've ever wanted in life. This thought gives me a sense of relief and freedom I haven't felt in all my life, and I look up at the night sky, smiling, hoping for this night to last forever.